It was last September when a rebel group known as the Houthis seized Yemen's capital city of Sana'a, dictating terms to then-President Abd-Rabbu Mansour Hadi. Fast forward to last week when they tightened their grip, holding Hadi a virtual prisoner in his home before he and the rest of his pro-Western government resigned. The question now is, what's next? What's next for Yemen and what's next for the United States as it continues to battle AQAP, Al-Qaida in the Arabian Peninsula inside the beleaguered country? For more, let's turn to CCTV's Jim Spellman. He joins us from our newsroom. And Jim, what's the latest from Yemen?
Well, Anand, the leader of the Houthi rebel group, Abdullah al-Houthi, is calling for a peaceful transition of power. He spoke on television Tuesday. He's calling for meetings Friday between the different factions competing for power in Yemen. Just hours before the televised address, the Houthis released a top presidential aide they had captured last week. That's being seen as a goodwill gesture. The United Nations applauded the move and encouraged the parties to come together and take steps in the best interest of the country. But no one thinks this will be easy. The Houthis control the capital of Sana'a. Last week, the president and his cabinet resigned, as you mentioned. That's left a huge power vacuum in the country. And in the south, separatists who oppose both the former government and the Houthis are pushing for independence and have raised their flag over some government buildings, Anand.
So, Jim, this group, the Houthis, who are they and where do they get their support from, both inside and outside Yemen?
Well, the Houthis emerged from other groups in the late 1990s and early 2000s. They took their name from their original leader, Hussein al-Houthi. He was killed by government forces in 2004. His brother now leads the group. Over the years, there have been periods of fighting as well as ceasefires between the Houthis and the government in Yemen, leading up to last week's ouster of Yemen's sitting government. The Houthis are a Shia militant group based in the northwestern provinces of Yemen. The country is about two-thirds Sunni and a third Shiite. But this isn't exactly a sectarian conflict. The Houthis are part of a branch of Shia Islam that it's seen as being somewhat closer to Sunni Islam. So there's certainly a sectarian component, but the conflict is also about claims of government corruption, elitism, and incompetence. Iran has been accused of backing the Houthis. It's not clear if that is the case or to what degree Iran may have been involved with the group at what point. The government in Sana'a has been cooperative with U.S. anti-terror efforts against Al-Qaida in the Arabian Peninsula, which mostly has been fought by drone strikes. The Houthis also oppose Al-Qaida in the Arabian Peninsula, but are against U.S. involvement in the country. And then, of course, you also, as I mentioned, have those separatists in the south competing for power as well. It's an extremely complicated situation, Anand.
Right, Jim, lots of moving parts there. So what does it all mean for those U.S. anti-terror efforts that you mentioned, especially the drone campaign that they've been conducting?
Yeah, well, Monday, the U.S. launched the first drone strike against AQAP since the resignation of President Hadi and his government. The strike killed 3 men the U.S. says were Al-Qaida operatives. AQAP are a top priority for U.S. counterterrorism efforts, especially after the terror attacks in France a few weeks ago, which were linked to the Al-Qaida offshoot. Speaking in India, President Obama said the U.S. will continue to go after targets inside Yemen, so it doesn't appear the drone strikes will stop regardless of who ends up leading Yemen. Anand?
Okay, Jim, thanks a lot. That's CCTV's Jim Spellman reporting.